we are facing unprecedented attacks on our democracy. I think we all saw that come to fruition in a way that was frightening on January 6th of this year. We saw, real attacks, an attempted insurrection. We saw the threat that our democracy faces manifest in a way that I don't know that any of us thought we would. That attempted insurrection was motivated by the big lie, by this idea that our elections were rigged, that there was rampant misconduct. That same lie has fueled this wave of restrictive laws that Wade spoke about. That same lie is what is being used to justify these restrictive laws. It's not the same in your face, visceral kind of attack that we all witnessed on January 6th, but it is an attack on our democracy and an attack on voting rights. As Wade said, we keep track of every piece of legislation affecting voting rights introduced in every state legislation across the country. And this year, we have already seen 19 states enact 33 laws that restrict access to voting. That includes a number of laws in places like Florida, Georgia, Texas, and Iowa that we refer to as monster voter suppression bills, these omnibus bills that contain a whole array of restrictions on the right to vote. And the question is, what will be done at this critical moment? And that's why all eyes are on Congress and all eyes are on the Senate, because we actually do have two pieces of legislation that would help us get past this moment, that would take us in the right direction, that would give us the tools necessary to fight back against these restrictive laws and the attacks on voting rights. Those are the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And the Freedom to Vote Act would set a floor for federal elections across the country. It would take so many of the things, the tactics that are used in states to make it harder for folks to vote off the table by saying you have to have a certain amount of early voting, you have to have same-day registration, you have to restore voting rights to people immediately upon their release from prison, you have to have automatic voter registration, you have to do all of these things that should just be the bare minimum in a 21st century democracy. And that would get us a long way towards pushing back against all of these restrictions, but it wouldn't get us all the way. And that is because the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965 with these preclearance provisions in place, because Congress and the president recognized in 1965 the ingenuity of discrimination in this country, that when you cut off one option for discriminating against voters of color, states and other jurisdictions find another way to do it. We're witnessing that ingenuity in these laws right now. States are finding new and different ways of accomplishing the objective of making it harder for some folks to vote. And without restoring the Voting Rights Act to its full strength by passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, we won't be unable to respond to that ingenuity. We'll take all the known ways of doing this off the table with the Freedom to Vote Act, but we still need the strength of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to really combat the efforts that we see right now to attack voting rights.